What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. Once again, we have the JK two-door build up here in the shop. We have Shadow as well, and he's very excited about the new round of upgrades that we have for it. So in the last few videos, we've been tackling some of the interior upgrades, the new Sound Assassin on the floor, the Hothead Headliners, the remote start. Got this thing driving really comfy. As you can tell, we already got the windows tinted as well. But the next round of upgrades, we're gonna transform this Jeep from this stock exterior and turn it into this. In order to transform this basic stock Jeep Wrangler into this cool looking off-road machine, we have to do quite a few upgrades, but it's important to do the upgrades tastefully and also keep in mind what the desired build goal is for the Jeep. In my case, what we're doing is creating a lightweight rock crawler that can also be very daily driven. So our first course of action is going to be ripping off the factory plastic fenders and replacing them with another set of plastic fenders, but they are quite different. These are from Kbd body kits. They are a poly flexible lightweight fender set for the JK. Speaking about lightweight, we also have a front and rear frame chop bumper set from Outta Hand Fab. These are constructed with a steel structural support and a shell of aluminum, which really cuts down on weight while still giving us a ton of clearance and a lot of strength. We have some new headlights and tail lights to really brighten up the Jeep, and a temporary set of wheels and tires to see how this thing looks after. We're gonna start off by removing all of the plastic on the Jeep. So the fender flares, the front bumper, and the rear bumper. We're gonna grab a socket, undo a few bolts, and rip all of that plastic off the Jeep. I'm pretty curious to see how much weight all of this stock stuff is gonna add up to be. 200, 7 pounds, 10 pounds, 41 pounds, 20 pounds. The factory JK bumpers and fenders roughly weigh 100 pounds. Now it's time to weigh our new setup to see if we can beat that weight. 40 pounds, 48 pounds, 4 pounds, and the rear fender is like 3 pounds. And according to some fancy math formulas, it turns out that there's about a 3-pound difference between the stock and this new setup. Now, by the time we do the frame chops, remove the metal from both the front and rear of the Jeep, we're gonna be back down to kind of a weightless upgrade in regards to fenders and bumpers. So let's go ahead and check out these Kbd Fender Flares and get them installed on the Jeep. When I started eyeballing these fenders a while back, I was curious to how thick they were. I'd never seen a set in person, only online. And unlike my MCE flares that are very thin but do have the contoured edge, these have a really good styling, but they're also incredibly thick and dense. Now this is 100% polyurethane, which means it's not only lightweight, it's extremely flexible. It's not gonna crack, and Kbd is known for their precise fitment and durability. They don't only make Jeep stuff, they're known for their full body kits for cars. So the street cars, the drift cars, their kits get beat up and ask for another beating. So these are gonna hold up really well on the trails. Now they do send body clips to mount these fenders with a bunch of screws. It seems like these clips are incredibly tight on the body and they're gonna hold up perfectly fine. If we wanna take it a step further, we can put some 1/4-20 riv nuts in here and use some standard bolts for these fenders. But at this point, we can leave our fender support or we can chop it off. Either way, the Kbd fender's gonna hide it, and I think this is gonna look pretty good. Let's get this on. They bolt right on, the fitment is perfect, and there's no modifications needed to install these. For $280, we get an amazing set of fenders that look good, give us a ton of room for extra large tires or up travel. And of course, we retain the lightweightness and flexibility of these flares. I'm a big fan of flexible flares just because if we hit a rock or a tree, it's just simply gonna bend and we'll be on our way. If we have a set of indestructible flares, I'm not saying they're all like that, but you'll see some of those really heavy duty ones still get hit, still dent, and a lot of the times it'll transfer the damage up here to the actual fender or the body on the rear. And on top of that, KBD does offer a warranty against cracking on these. So I'm excited to see how they hold up and maybe put them against some trees on the trails. With that being said, it is time to take a look at our new Elite frame chop bumpers from Outta Hand Fab. When it comes time to choosing a set of bumpers for your Jeep, there's almost an unlimited amount of options out there on the internet. Tons of companies making JK bumpers. And in my mind, it comes down to a few things on what exactly I'm looking for. Now, bumpers are a very personable choice. You know, what style do you like? What's your budget? What are you gonna use the Jeep for? I can't answer any of that for you, only you can. But we can take a look at a few things that I personally like in regards to bumpers on a JK. And the first thing is the approach angle and design of the bumper. How small is it? How compact? Are we going to actually benefit off-road from this bumper? So first off, frame chop is what I'm looking for. A frame chop bumper is gonna eliminate the front frame horns where your factory bumper bolts onto. It allows our bumper to sit further back, closer to the grill, so we get much more clearance off-road. Second, I want a bumper that recesses a winch, meaning I don't want a winch blocking the grill, preventing our radiator from working as good as it can, because these Jeeps are known to run warm. Third, I don't need a big heavy bumper. I want something kind of minimalistic and lightweight. That's where this Outta Hand Fab bumper comes into play. It's designed with a steel 3/16 winch tray to actually hold the bumper and winch. It's just the outer shell is made out of aluminum for that look while cutting down on weight. So this Elite frame chop bumper met all of those for me, and the price at $585 for the aluminum bumper, not bad at all. It's time to go ahead and prep and actually chop the frame for the frame chop. A lot of people get shied away, especially if they've never cut anything on their Jeep. It can be a little bit intimidating, but honestly, it's not too bad. We can use a Sawzall, a grinding wheel, plasma cutter, whatever we want. And all we're doing is completely removing our crash bar down here. We're just gonna cut on those welds, clean it up. And then for the frame horns themselves, on the Outta Hand Fab frame chop, we're just cutting right behind the frame horn. We can save these in case we ever do wanna go back to a stock style bumper, weld the frame horns back on it, and we'd be good to go. So we have our Sawzall. Mike's over here, he's gonna help out. He's gonna be starting on the rear, so I'll show you that, but I think we're gonna do the plasma cutter on the rear. We have to remove like 4 inches of the frame as well as the rear cross member back here. So I've marked on the body mount where we're gonna cut right there, as well as the frame, and this whole rear portion is gonna pull off. If you want the most clearance, you're gonna have to chop the frame. There is a fair amount of grinding involved in the process. Mike is over on the rear, still grinding, cleaning up a few spots so we could test fit the bumper. But the front frame chop is done, so we've test fit the winch tray just to make sure everything fits. And here's what our frame should look like after. Now we are gonna have to go on this little bulge section on the inside of the frame and hammer that in just a hair on both sides. We're not gonna worry about the outside, just the inside. This sits on here. Let's go check out the rear. There is this little weld up here on the corner and on the bottom that need to get removed. We're gonna grind all this down nice and flush, paint it, and then test fit the rear bumper to make sure it fits on there. So the front is mocked up as well. The next step, line them up with the factory holes in the frame on both sides, and then we're gonna go ahead, punch, and drill out all of these holes in the frame. Outta Hand Fab does include instructions in the kit, so we're gonna follow those, finish up these bumpers. It's kind of crazy how a new set of fenders, bumpers, wheels, and tires can almost change a completely stock Jeep and almost call this a build ready to hit the trails, which we are going to do soon. So these are a set of 34-inch tires, well, like the metric equivalent of 34. Now these are Mike's tires. We're just using them temporarily, and they kind of work really good for this build. So there's a lot I want to talk about. We haven't even really talked much about the rear bumper. That's also the rear Elite frame chop. There's a narrow version and a standard width. I went with the narrow because I think on the two-door, it's gonna work out better in the long run. Now, before we actually take a look at this Jeep, I want to go ahead and get the grill back on, which leads us into our next upgrade, which is gonna be a set of LED headlights. You know, the JK halogen headlights are just horrible. You really can't see anything at night. And to add on top of that, previous owner of this Jeep must have clocked one of the headlights wrong, because one side has a vertical line, like the light is vertical, so it's kind of useless. When I was thinking about what LED headlights to go with, you know, I've loved the JW speakers that were running on the JK and LJ, but I didn't want to spend that much money. Granted, they've lasted 3 years, and figured we'd go ahead and try out a new set of Amazon LED headlights. These are from HW Star before I crash them into the engine bay. And it's a very simple, good looking LED light. They had good reviews and very affordable, instead of paying a couple $100 for headlights. So we're gonna test them out. We've done a lot of testing of headlights on the channel. You know, the Amazon SunPie back in the day, the high beam off-road headlights, unfortunately they're out of business. And then the JW speaker headlights. So we're gonna see how these hold up. We also have a set of taillights, a lot of rambling. These are very easy things to install. So let's get them on, get the grill back on so we can check out the Jeep and talk about why we could stop here with the build and just take this thing out and have a blast. With the new headlights, hopefully we'll at least be able to see at night now. The new taillights just make the Jeep look a little bit newer, and the hood latches are hopefully going to eliminate the hood flutter. The factory latches just really let this hood shake. Now on the JKU, I did the set of the JL hood latches, and those turned out really nice. They eliminate the hood flutter and they just work. But I didn't want to have two of the same looking Jeeps, so I decided to go with a set of Amazon hood latches. Now, a big problem with these style is first the anodizing or powder coating starts flaking off, they start corroding, and they just don't look good. These have some pretty good reviews, so figured I'd test them out. A lot of this stuff on Amazon I picked up on Black Friday deals. A lot of this was like just incredible pricing. So I went ahead and got it, and we'll see how long it holds up for. We have 2 points of engagement. So we have the hook right there in the latch, and we have the adjustability to kind of preload it on how tight we want to do it. So we're not relying on this little ball detent to hold the latch. We can actually put some pressure on the shank. So pretty neat. They should hold up, and from what I've seen so far, they are very solid. Let's take a look at the rear bumper. So this is the narrow version like I mentioned earlier, and we have a lot of clearance back here. The muffler sits right here, so it kind of complements the stock muffler, but most people are gonna rip this muffler out and show off their nice fancy rear axle, which hopefully, in the future we'll have something to show off right there. Now I was able to make the factory spare tire carrier fit. Since the bumper is a frame chop, it really squeezes up tight in there, so it does not have a spare tire cutout, but depending on your carrier, you might be able to fit it. All I had to do was throw a few washers in there, and with the back spacing on these wheels, it fit. But that is a really good looking bumper. It's lightweight, really close up to the frame. And one thing I forgot to mention is, the strength of this bumper. I'll include some clips, but how it mounts compared to other frame chop bumpers, it doesn't just squeeze the frame and mount on a few spots. It actually incorporates the entire 1-inch D-ring receiver mount into the frame, and it sandwiches it all as one complete thick unit, and then it also ties into our factory bolts over here and 2 on the bottom. So this bumper is not going anywhere, and the hardest thing with the install of those was the drilling. So I would highly suggest a nice set of 1/2-inch or 9/16 drill bits and a corded strong drill. Now, since the bumpers are aluminum, we're gonna have to keep them nice and clean or paint them. I wanna hear from you guys on your thoughts on what we should do. Now, the wheels and tires are temporary, so we might lose that aluminum finish. So I'm thinking either paint those black or color match the bumper aluminum shells and the fenders red to match the Jeep and leave the hard top and wheels black. I think that might be good. Let me know what you guys think. And plus, I want to see how hard it is to paint these Kbd Flares. I've had quite a few people ask me how to paint them, and I have no idea. I'm not a painter, so we're gonna try that out. But with all of these upgrades done, we almost could take this Jeep out and just have a ton of fun with it. The one thing missing is a winch, which is gonna be the next video, and we'll finally take this thing out on the trails. But since we haven't touched the suspension, it's still gonna ride like stock. The little increase in tire size, unfortunately, the 3.8 is not a big fan of big tires without the correct gear ratio. I went ahead and put my super chips that I've had in the JK with the 3.8 before the Hemi swap, programmed it for this Jeep. We'll see if we gain any increase in power from the tune. There's a few to choose from, but we also programmed the new tire size and all of that. The new headlights and taillights, the headlights are extremely bright, and the taillight reverse lights, those are phenomenal compared to stock and some of the other aftermarket taillights that I've used before. So that is about it for this video, guys. We were able to transform this stock Jeep JK and turn it into a pretty cool looking Jeep with some actual functional upgrades. Now, I'm super excited to take it out on the trail to find out what else we need to do to this thing to take it even further to, being really trail ready. But I do know for a fact that we're gonna need to put a winch in here before we try hitting the trails. Luckily, there's a brand new winch that just hit the market. The new Harbor Freight Badlands ZXR. As you can tell, it looks quite different. We're gonna put this thing on and check it out in next week's video. I'll see you guys later.